Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for episode 7 of Just Take 3 with me, Andrew Musgrove, and
Me, Sam Mulliner.
birthday boy Sam Milner. Are you having a nice day so far?
Yeah, I suppose I am. I was woken up early doors by my children, who are having their first day back at school, or in my daughter's case, her first day at school. So I've just dropped them off, and my wife's back at work because she is a teacher. So I've got the whole day to myself in lovely peace and quiet. So I am having a whale of a time.
The best birthday present possible. Any birthday cake yet, or is that going to be later?
No, that'll be late. Well, it is what I'm not big on birthdays, but yeah, we might have a bit of that later. But yeah, some peace and serenity is what I'm about today.
Which I'm sure the parents listening and watching this podcast can certainly relate to Sam after a few weeks of the summer holiday. I'm also, Sam, admiring the latest shirt that you're wearing for those listening. A little black number with a white square with a Newcastle United badge in it. That's last year's kind of attire,
Yes,
right? Because there was a
yes,
lovely coat, cagoule kind of thing that I tried to order in the sale. And when I went, well, actually, it took my order and it took my money. But then I got an email off Castor 2 days before their deal ended with Newcastle to say, actually, we haven't got this item. And I was gutted because it was a lovely top and it was a lovely coat, sorry, and it was a brilliant price as well. And I just thought, you know what, I've had no issue with Castor. And then the final order I place, they've let me down.
yeah. There's a bit of that one there with them, but I look, yeah, this was a lovely price as well. But yeah, I've had this a while. I didn't realise I've never wore it for you. But yeah, no, it's good. I mean. Yeah, your experience at Castor tantamount to your experience with Ticketmaster.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the search for Oasis tickets because
I
I'm,
was
I'm
pretty chilled. I was pretty chilled.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
you've
was in the.
seen them before. Like
I've
you've been
seen.
there, you've done that. I
Yeah,
really wanted to go and see them.
I've seen them twice.
All right, don't rub it in.
But do you know what? I mean, look, I was a pretty cool kid. What's the Story? Morning Glory was the first album I ever got. Um, so I've loved Oasis for pretty much as long as I've loved Newcastle United, actually. But I have to admit, having seen them twice, they're not in my top 10 of best bands I've seen live.
Oh, there we go. Well, go on, give us your number one then.
Oh, David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, Royal Albert Hall.
There we go. I don't think I was expecting that answer.
Radiohead, Old Trafford, 2009. That was good. Bruce Springsteen at the Etihad,
Poor man's Billy Joel as
2012.
well, Bruce. Poor man's Billy Joel.
Arcade Fire,
Okay, we get it. We
Faithless,
get it. You're a man who likes to go to gigs, and Oasis is not in your top
Elbow.
10.
Yeah, see, Oasis aren't even the best band from Manchester I've seen live. But yeah, no, I was pretty chilled. But yeah,
What do you mean?
when I
Take that
liked
or
what?
take that? Is that what you're saying?
No, not for me that one. But yeah, I was in the queue and I was like 150,000th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is what
it
it
is
is.
what
You
it
know
is.
what? They'll
They'll
split
announce
up
more
after the
dates
first
as
gig.
well, but the whole Ticketmaster furore, it makes the ballot system at Newcastle seem pretty fluid. And I have news.
You do?
Newcastle United have not won a domestic trophy since 1955. We've not won a major trophy since 1969. And I had never got a ticket through the ballot system until now. Until now, it's finally happened. Newcastle versus Man City at the end of this month. I and my son have got tickets through the ballot. Unbelievable scenes. What a time to be alive. And yeah, can't wait. Even though I've been to every home game so far this season, but that was due to the tardiness of my fellow friends to my gain. But yeah, this is the first time I've got tickets through the ballot. Who would have thought it?
Well, congratulations on that. I know you were very excited. You did send me a screenshot when it happened, and I imagine there was a little bit of a Sheer celebration around your living room floor, and I'm sure you and your little lad
No, I mean, I'd
will
rather
enjoy
we
it.
signed a player, but
Well, there is that. But
that
look,
was, that was
you
second
got
best.
tickets, and that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Episode 7, then we've gone for those who left too soon, and when we think about this title, many people will say, "Well, what is too soon? Are we putting a date on it? Is it a season? Is it, 2 seasons?" I'm going to leave it open to interpretation because I think everyone's opinion is a little bit different. And to be fair, I could pick a starting 11 of those who I think left too soon. If you interpret the too soon as no kind of deadline, was this a difficult one for you to pick?
Yeah, because there's lots, and over various time frames as well. Some weren't there that long. Some, well, to give you a clue, some were there for a long time. I just wanted one more. I just wanted one more year. But yeah, it was easy in a way, but hard to narrow down to just 3.
I'm also going to change the comparison that we always make. This is kind of based on Tom Hanks on a desert island, because I don't know if you've stumbled across Lost on Netflix. I watched it the first time around, but now it's on Netflix. I'm finding myself up until 2 a.m. in the morning watching it, and that's now what it's based on. We've crashed on a desert island with 40 other people, and there's the black smoke running around. There's polar bears, and just to get us through the day, we're going to watch Newcastle United highlight reels. Have you seen Lost before?
I'm aware of the premise. It was all a dream in the end, wasn't it? And it was a very big letdown. Sorry if I've spoiled the ending.
I'll be honest.
I mean, it has been out 20 years, but
I gave up after season 3 because it all got a little bit stupid.
no,
I could handle
I
the polar
don't.
bears, but
I
after
don't
that,
like these American shows that go on for series after series, or they call them seasons, don't they? Season after season after season after season. I get no. It's the quite clear they're just doing it for a paycheck, which is fine, but it's not
season
exactly.
1 is one of the most watchable seasons I think ever. Great show.
Many polar bears on tropical islands these days.
No, I think that's probably been the only one ever spotted on a tropical island, to be fair.
Mm.
But hey, as long as the polar bear doesn't eat our special electronic device that allows us to watch highlight reels of Newcastle United, we'll be fine. Okay?
Good.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I will actually. And do you want me to go for a kind of penalty kick, or do you want me to go for a one that's time frame wise just a bit of a not a bizarre choice, but one that was here a long time?
Bizarre choice. We'll start with the big guns.
Well, the bizarre choice. It's not bizarre choice. It's not a bizarre choice, I suppose. But he was here for 12 years, and I wanted one more because if had he stayed one more season, he would be sat atop of Newcastle United's all-time appearance list, and that's Shay Given. His exit deeply troubled me, and I was gutted when he left. And it was kind of this time where it was all the wheels had well and truly come off, and the full force of Mike Ashley's negative effect on Newcastle was really coming to a fore, and the fact that Shay Given went to Man City, which is absolutely fine. They were at the start of their kind of positive ascendancy to the top of the Premier League. But Shay Given, I just wanted one more season because I think he's third. If you ever do the stadium tour around St James's Park, there's 2 kind of honours boards. Around the place. I think it's just before you go into the media suite, actually. So one is the top 10 goal scorers, and the other one is top 10 all-time appearance holders. And seeing Shay Given in third, just one more, and he would have been top. I would think. It's just frustrating, and I just wish he would have. I mean, we've discussed this before in regards to his testimonial, haven't we? I just wanted one more season from him to get him at the top of that list. It would have been deserved, and he deserves something like that to be properly ingrained into Newcastle United's history.
He certainly does. He's got the most appearances in the Premier League for Newcastle United, but it's Frank Clark is above him, and is it
Jimmy Lawrence?
Who's the other one? Jimmy Lawrence?
Yeah, top.
Yeah. So 2 Newcastle United legends, they're at the top of the list. And yeah, you're right. One more season, and he probably would have been top of that list. I think for me, when he went, I think up to that point, all the rubbish under Mike Ashley, you were aware of it, obviously, but it had been kind of held back. People had gone, results had been bad. But when Shea left, that was kind of like the final
That's
brick out of the
massive.
wall, and the water came rushing through.
Yeah, he was one of them guys where you think, well, he'll never leave. He'll never go. So yeah, it was absolutely shocking. And I was really really gutted about it because as a bit of a goalkeeper growing up, I used to idolise him and watch him very closely. Um, yeah, I was absolutely gutted and just it's so frustrating because there was loads of little instances like that. Yes, there's a time where they all have to go, um, due to age or whatnot. And so Bobby was great at that. I nearly put Gary Speed on in my 3 as well, because he probably had 1 or 2 more years left to give. But the way Bobby did it gracefully and handled it really well. Same with guys like Rob Lee, Warren Barton, the way Bobby sold them on. It doesn't leave a bad taste. It was done professionally with the right intentions for player and club. That Shay Given exit just it stings a bit.
No, it certainly does. And he was just 34 appearances away from breaking that
Exactly.
record.
1 more year and he would have done.
And he only cost Man City an initial £5.9 million. I mean, could you imagine how much Shay Given would cost in today's market? Okay, better shot stopper than, he is or he was with the ball at his feet, but, still a top quality goalkeeper that would definitely command a huge fee today.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how you would price him up because obviously the game has changed somewhat. Managers now want a goalkeeper that can play as a sweeper keeper, as the phrase is now. It's a tricky one, but yeah, in terms of shot stoppers, just one of the absolute best, and we were so lucky to have him for so long. Great signing from Kenny Dalglish. You obviously knew him from Blackburn. People forget as well he was at Sunderland for a little while. Shay Given as well, wasn't he? Yeah, and obviously the move to Man City. Yes, he win an FA Cup, but by the time they won the Premier League, he'd obviously been displaced by Joe Hart. So I wouldn't say his move to City was a roaring success. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like. And then he had to go, and he was shipped out to like Villa and just crap teams as well. It turned into a bit of a damp squib. Whereas had he stayed, he could have played on for Newcastle until he retired, and then just bowed out at the kind of not at the top because that's not where we were at that time. But he would have bowed out in a fantastic way at Newcastle.
I don't think anyone can begrudge him his exit, though. We all remember
No,
that
and I
5-1 defeat to Liverpool, where it would have been closer to 10 had it not been for Shay Given. And then his family lawyer released a statement saying he was considering his future. I mean, that sums up just how bad that game was, that it tipped him over the edge. But it must have been something he was thinking about for a while. He knows that the clock's ticking on his career. Newcastle are nowhere near winning anything. The chaos on and off the pitch, Joe Kinnear, Mike Ashley, just he wanted the opportunity to win something and go to a club on the up, and he wins the FA Cup. Okay, like you say, he had a season and a half at City where he was number one. Then he's off to Villa, Middlesbrough, Stoke. But he gets that FA Cup. And yeah, you just cannot begrudge him an exit because it was so bad that anyone staying, I don't even know why you wouldn't, to be quite truthful.
Yeah, I know. I get that. It was properly crap, wasn't it?
It was.
That season was just the worst season in living memory for me, and yeah, that was absolutely gutting. But yeah, I just wanted one more just to get into the top of that appearance list, just one more. But obviously, it never happened.
No, it didn't. But a fantastic gentleman, really nice guy. He's back here quite often with the TV companies, and
Oh, have you met
has
him? Have you?
just a few times.
I haven't. I've
You
never met.
haven't? Is this one of the people you've never met?
No, I haven't, and he's top of my list, to be honest. Because
Holy smokes!
yeah,
Wowza!
As I say, I've idolized him, and I know my co-host on NFTV, Johnny Greenwood, as well. He's the same, so that's the one we've always wanted. But yeah, it's not happened.
Yeah, really nice chat. We've had him on the podcast actually once before, and I also met him when I must have been about 9 or 10. For whatever reason, he was opening a fireplace shop in my local village, and had a photograph with him, and he was really nice chap, and always good to see him back at Newcastle United. But yeah, maybe he did leave too soon. Maybe he would have been. I wonder if in hindsight he would have been happier getting that record than maybe winning the FA Cup. What do you think?
Probably not.
No.
That one moment of success, lifting a trophy, getting your winner's medal. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. You're the one that's met him 1,000 times. I never have, but I'm pleased for you nonetheless.
Because did Newcastle get relegated that season? Am I right
Yes.
in thinking? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, getting that record's one thing, but you don't want that record if it comes with a relegation. But there you go. Shay Given, the first name on our list of those who left too soon. I'll give you my pick now. First one I've got down on my list is Georginio Wijnaldum. Stayed for a season, 40 appearances, 11 goals across all competitions. Joined from Feyenoord for £14.5 million. Moved to Liverpool following Newcastle's relegation for an initial £23 million. I think we all remember him scoring 4 goals against Norwich. He was man of
I
the
had him
match.
captain of my fantasy team that day as well.
There we go. Man of the match and a 2-0 win over Liverpool where he scored and forced an own goal from Skirtle. So maybe that was the performance that put him in the mind of Liverpool. He scored twice against Spurs in that final game of the season. Newcastle had already been relegated and they thumped Spurs 5-1. He was top scorer that season. He was absolutely brilliant. And when we talk about goal-scoring midfielders, I don't think we've had, at least in terms of actually getting the goals, a better one than him since that season. I mean, someone's going to correct me in the comments, but I think that's something Newcastle United especially lack in today's team is goals from the middle of the park.
Kevin Nolan.
Yeah. No, but
Well,
Kevin Nolan
obviously,
was
Wijnaldum had a
prior,
bit.
wasn't he? Kevin Nolan was
Yeah,
4 years before.
he had a real touch of class in Wijnaldum. This is a player that did enter my calculations, but he was a bit in and out under Rafa when Rafa first took over. Do you remember? He was a bit in and out under Rafa. He wasn't, and he never scored an away goal either, did he? All of his
No,
goals
he
for
didn't.
Newcastle came at St James's. I don't begrudge him the move at all because things were obviously a bit of a mess and there needed to be a huge turnaround of players following that relegation. And look, yeah, he's gone on to win Champions Leagues and just have a absolutely amazing career. But yeah, really, really talented player. That season as well, just weird. That was
Yeah,
obviously
what?
the season the complete cluster F because that was the season obviously Leicester won the league. We had some good results that you've just touched on there, but we got relegated. And the results you mentioned there is not that of a relegation candidate. But it was just failure to beat the teams around us and putting in some absolutely embarrassing displays under Steve McLaren. That obviously
Yeah,
sent us down.
it was just chaos, wasn't it? Absolute chaos. Kind of just summed up that Mike Ashley era. And you think about that
Well,
team.
no, it doesn't because we spent quite heavily that summer.
Yeah, but in terms of in terms of the managers and the changes and sticking with McLaren, who should have been gone
Too long.
2 or 3 games before he actually got the boot. He should have gone after that Chelsea defeat, and they held on to him. They drew, or they lost at Stoke, and then they lost to Bournemouth at home.
Bournemouth at home was horrific.
they should have got rid of him after that Chelsea game. I was in Harry's bar watching that game. I remember that, and 5-1, wasn't it?
Riviera up front, wasn't it?
And you just think, why didn't you get rid of that? Because it was the international break after that Chelsea game, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure they had a few weeks to make the switch, and they didn't do it. Eddie Howe brought his side, Bournemouth side to St James's Park, thumped Newcastle, and then Rafa was in for the Leicester game, which I think they lost they lose 1-0 as well. So it wasn't a great start for Rafa. And then I think Sunderland was next actually. But yeah, I think in terms of you could just tell boardroom level, it was just all over the place.
Yeah, there's a bit of that going around at the minute, isn't there? But obviously not that bad. Yeah, Wijnaldum though was class. I didn't put him in. He was a player, as I say, I thought about. I didn't put him in mine. For kind of he obviously stayed the whole season and got relegated, whereas Shay Given, had we have gone down, had he stayed, he'd saved us so many times before, and the such narrow margins that we went down last season. Whereas final day, when we obviously thumped Spurs with 10 men, we were already down because of results elsewhere, predominantly on Wearside. But yeah, Wijnaldum was great, and he's had a fantastic career. Switched it up, didn't he? Didn't play because he's more of a 10 for us, like you said. But he completely wasn't for Liverpool. Klopp, enhanced Genie's career tenfold, didn't he? So yeah, I can see why you put him in. Quality player.
Very versatile player, could play anywhere across that middle, number 10 on the left as well. But he just had like often, Newcastle United fans and podcasts, we have that thing, pick your favorite ever team, I think even though he only played one season, and I'm not saying he'd be in a team above Gary Speed or Johan Cabaye or even perhaps Bruno, but I do think he'd be in that kind of conversation, of maybe a squad, because he was just so talented. He could score goals. He had speed about him, pass. He had strength. He was a leader as well. Did he not? I'm sure he did not captain Liverpool to one of those trophies that we mentioned, Premier League title. I know Henderson, but I just, yeah, he's of the players I've got on my list. He's probably the one where not only do I wish he'd stayed longer, I wish he was in a good team. Because
Yeah,
him in a
there's
good
no
team.
way at all he would have been in the Championship.
Yeah, no, not at all. But I mean, he was good at Newcastle that season. He went to
Yeah.
Liverpool and got better because he was playing with better players. He was playing with some of the world's best players. Under one of the world's best managers, and you just think, oh, man, he was good. But how good could he have been at Newcastle under? If it was Sir Bobby Robson, for example, as the manager, and you had Alan Shearer up front and Gary Speed alongside him in the middle, perhaps, what could have happened if he was in a decent team at Newcastle United?
Yeah, and I think the reason why he's not in that conversation that you just mentioned, because he's not really, he is sometimes a little bit forgotten about, is because that everyone's just written off that season and wants to forget about it completely.
But again, you go back, Mitrovic was up front. I know he didn't hit too many goals, but he was raw.
Tovan, Mbemba.
Sissoko.
Yeah.
He was one that came into my way of thinking as well. Again, more because I just think Sissoko in a good team would have excelled even further. I know he was a bit hit and miss, was Musa, but
Attitude.
yeah. But yeah, so Wijnaldum is the first man I've got on this list. Just what might have been, really.
Yeah, absolutely. My second pick is well, I'll just tell you, it's John Dahl Tomasson.
Oh, hello.
Signed by Kenny Dalglish again. So Kenny bought really well. He just sold horrendously. Yeah, John Dahl Tomasson, and I think I said it on here, but it might have been on Newcastle Fans TV. I don't know. I talk a lot on the internet. And we were having a discussion regarding Joe Linton, and I just thought, obviously, when Joe Linton was at the peak of his terribleness, there's that rogue thumb up again. But I just I think I was talking with Johnny actually, because after his first season, Johnny said, "If we can get 10 mil for him, you'd take it," which now looks hilarious. But I didn't, because I said I just think there might be a little bit of the John Dahl Tomasson about him, where he could go to another club and be brilliant. And that's exactly what happened with John Dahl Tomasson. The guy won the Champions League with AC Milan. Due to the injury to Alan Shearer, the really bad one that kept him out for such a long time, he was kind of forced to play as a 9. He's obviously not a 9; he's more of a number 10, just playing off him. I would have loved to have seen him stay and kind of really build up a partnership with Alan Shearer, with him with Tomasson in the 10, Shearer in the 9. I would have really liked to seen that develop, rather than just being sporadically with Shearer, who wasn't fully wound up, and Tomasson had struggled. I just think what could have been, really, had, as I say, Shearer not got that injury, there could have been something pretty special. But look, he left and he went on to again have a fantastic career, and it was just probably right club, wrong time.
No, I agree. And if you look at his stats after Newcastle United, 55 and 122 for Feyenoord, then off to AC Milan, 22 and 76. A very, very decent player who won honours elsewhere. And I think what you've got to remember with John Dahl Tomasson was that he was 20, 21 when he moved to Newcastle
Yeah, he was a
United.
kid, yeah.
He was a young kid, and he was never brought in to be the sole striker. It's a little bit like William Sosolu being made to play as number 1 choice if Isaac
Who?
gets injured.
Say again?
William, go on.
Asula.
Asula. What did I say?
Why something like William
William
Josselin?
Asula. It's a bit like Asula being made to play as the number 1 choice.
Yeah. If Isaac gets injured and Wilson remains injured, then yeah, having Asula stuck up top would be massively to his development, hugely so. But yeah, probably not onto the same levels as Tomasson though, because he was a real quality player, and obviously had a great international career with Denmark as well. I just think that's one of the main ones. I think what could have been, really.
I think a lot of people will agree with you, because like I say, he had such a good career after he left, and it was a real shame. A young lad destined for big things, just not at Newcastle United or in the Premier League, unfortunately. And you're right. If Shearer hadn't picked up that injury, you're not only thinking what might have been for John Dahl Tomasson, you're thinking about what might have been for Shearer, getting even more goals and stretching that fantastic tally even further. And you're thinking what might have been for Kenny Dalglish in Newcastle United, because Shearer always says, right man, wrong time. Could Kenny Dalglish have really turned Newcastle into an even bigger force than it was previously under maybe Kevin Keegan? I know totally different ways of football, but you do think about that Shearer injury and what might have been on a much bigger scale than just John Dahl Tomasson.
Yeah, it was just disaster after disaster, wasn't it? I had no luck whatsoever, and we've had our fair share of injury crises down the years, and that was terrible. I mean, where do you even start without Alan Shearer for so long? Let alone, obviously, the day after you've sold Les Ferdinand. And you're left with this Danish kid and Tino Asprilla, who was very hit and miss. I know he's really fondly remembered, and rightly so, but he was very, very hit and miss, wasn't he? And he did his hamstrings quite a few times as well, did Tino. But yeah, what could have been, and went on to have a brilliant career, and yeah, took a step back for 2 steps forward to get that move to AC Milan, and yeah, a trophy-laden career.
He came in as an attacking midfielder, to place just slightly behind Alan Shearer. And obviously the injury to Shearer then meant he had to be the sole striker. And very, very tough thing to change to, especially in the Premier League when maybe you haven't got that strength. It's a very difficult challenge to take upon. And I think he only scored 3, maybe 4 goals in 35 appearances that season before he moved on. Really, really unfortunate, and just one of those where you think, what might have been. And actually, it's funny you've picked John Dahl Tomasson, because the other thing that didn't help him, as you've mentioned there, is the sale of Les Ferdinand, and he is actually the name I've got on my list next. Is that I think, he left too soon. I think he should have finished his career at Newcastle United, and for whatever reason, Kenny Dalglish and the board saw fit to sell him to Tottenham. They tried to persuade him to stay once Shearer picked up that injury, and Les understandably said, "Nope, I've given my word to Tottenham." And also, he would have been pretty miffed that they pushed him to the exit door anyway. He didn't want to go. Him and Shearer had a fantastic partnership in that season. They played together. Ferdinand had been absolutely tremendous in the 2 seasons at Newcastle United, 50 goals in 84 games. He'd showed real character as well. He'd given up the number 9 shirt for Alan Shearer. Not many people would do that, but Les, being the bigger man, did that, struck up a fantastic partnership with him. And I just think, okay, he was 32, and that was what was given as the reason. When are we going to get £6 million again for a 32-year-old? But, he went on to score quite a few goals for Tottenham Hotspur. After that, he went to West Ham and Leicester as well. He was still scoring goals until I think...
Bolton as well, I seem to recall.
Yeah, he was still scoring goals right until the very end. And, even if they'd sold them on after an extra season, then fair enough. But there was still some magic there between him and Shearer. And I do think back to that period in time when he left, and you just think, even if Shearer hadn't got injured, I still think, what on earth, what were Newcastle United doing? Some things are worth more than money, and he would have easily again hit double figures for Newcastle United in that season. And obviously, even if Shearer had still got injured, it wouldn't have been felt as badly, because you would have had John Tomasson offering the speed, being the little Craig Bellamy to Alan Shearer 4 or 5 years later, and he could have been that to Les Ferdinand. And yeah, I was good when Ferdinand left, and it's still one of those sales which it just annoys me, because Newcastle United, they saw the money and not the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's the biggest crime in Newcastle United history, the fact that Shearer and Ferdinand only had 1 season together. Which, like, whenever you say that statement, you think, even though we know it's fact, you just pause for half a second and think, hang on, really? What? They only had 1 season? That's just crazy. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely scandalous. Such a shame. I was struggling for a third one because I had so many to choose from. So Les was kind of the one that was going to the top of my list, but now you've done that, I can do another one. But yeah, really pleased you've picked Les. The best header of a football I've ever seen. Fortunately, I have interviewed Les Ferdinand, unlike my Shay Given exploits. And I told him that, and it was something that he said, well, it wasn't natural ability. He had to really graft and work at his aerial game. He's a complete striker. He could do it all. He could do it all. Like you say, 32, if he was just a bit younger, then I don't think they would have even considered selling Les Ferdinand when they did. Yeah, just all round brilliant striker and proper team player, as you say.
Do you know what? He actually was not 32. I'm just quickly doing the maths here. So he would have been sold in the summer of 97, yeah? That's when he was sold. And he was
Okay.
born 8th of December 1966. So he would have been 30, right? Is that right?
Don't tell me that. Don't tell
That
me
makes
that.
it even more scandalous.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
My maths
All
is
right, there's some stigmatism when you hit the big 3-0. But
I've got some quotes here from Les. He's speaking to Sky Sports News a few years back. He said, "I didn't want to leave Newcastle United. I was there for 2 years and I would have spent the rest of my career there. I thought it was a great club and I thought we were on the cusp of winning something. But I think managers, and certainly British managers that I've come across, they like to change it, because if they don't change it and that team goes on to be successful, everyone talks about it being the previous manager's team." Kenny had his own ideas. He came in and he needed to raise funds. He did say to me he didn't want me to leave, but the club were looking to raise funds, and he was pretty honest with me. He said he didn't want to lose me, but I didn't really believe it. Tottenham came up with £6 million, and I'd been there for 2 years. I was 30, and Newcastle probably saw it as good business. A couple of other clubs that came in. Liverpool only wanted to pay 3.5. Sheffield were willing to pay 6. And I remember speaking to David Pleat. I thought, if I'm going to leave Newcastle, Tottenham were my boyhood club. So that was where I was going to go. I knew the club was in a bit of turmoil, but after speaking to Alan Sugar, he utterly convinced me to sign for Spurs. People going through their careers and they say they don't have regrets, but from a football perspective, that was probably the worst decision I made joining Spurs. Wow, didn't think that was coming. When I left QPR and I went to Newcastle, that was a football decision because I felt I was going to become a better player, and I think I did become a better player. When I left Newcastle to go to Tottenham, I probably allowed my pride to get in the way of making what was the right decision for my career, but I enjoyed playing for them. Basically, just didn't want to leave Newcastle United.
I don't think anyone
There
wanted
we
him to
go.
go.
Had the medical on Friday, and I was sitting in a restaurant on Saturday when I got the call from my agent to say Alan had broken his ankle in the tournament and could be out for the season. He said Newcastle want me to come back, but they were not allowed to speak to me, and I could only speak to me through him because they accepted the bid from Tottenham. Unless I turned down Tottenham, they were not allowed to approach me. They came back on Sunday, and my agent and told me what they would pay me to come back. So he was hoping to go back to Tottenham and say, you've got to match that. I felt shabbily treated by the club. I remember speaking with Alan on the phone, and he said to me, this is my boyhood club. I love it. I would love for you to come back. But because of the way you've been treated, I understand if you didn't. I'd made my mind up because of the way I had been treated. I felt bad for the supporters. I really wanted to go back. I really enjoyed playing in front of them, but didn't feel the club had done what was right. And he's spot
Fair
on. And
enough.
when you speak to him, he's such a nice chap. He was there actually for the Spurs game last weekend, stopping for every photograph, speaking to everyone, and because you can understand why he was so massively hacked off at the way he was treated. And yeah, if it was me and it wasn't my boyhood club, as Alan Shearer said to him there, I'd be putting the phone straight down. Not a chance. You've pushed me towards the door. I'm 30. I've still got 2 years ahead of me at the very least. You've gone for the money. Why would I come back now? You clearly don't want me.
Nothing wrong with having your principles, is there? By the way, you say that he was up for the Spurs game. I didn't know that, but obviously Nobby was there as well. How great is it to see
They
all
were sitting next to each other.
Well, I was front row of the Gallagher against Spurs, so I didn't have the best vantage point of the leather seats. But yeah, it's great, isn't it, having all these heroes back that was just never happening under Ashley. Yeah, I love it, love it, love it, love it. But yeah, Les.
Where does Les rank in terms of your favourite Newcastle United strikers? I mean, obviously, for most, Alan Shearer's top of that list. And then you get into a bit of debate. If you're picking your first 11, is it Shearer and Milburn? Is it Shearer and Sutermack? Is it Shearer and Isak for some, maybe? Or do you go to that entertainer's pick and it's Shearer and Ferdinand?
Oh, do you know what? I don't even think I can answer that question because it's just obviously it's Shearer and like you say, but obviously despite it being my birthday, still being a bit too young to have witnessed Milburn and Supermac, Andy Cole, you can't discount. So Les, yeah, he's up there, isn't he?
It's funny you mentioned Cole because I mean, could you imagine? I mean, again, we were a little bit young to remember the fallout of that when Cole was sold to Manchester United. And he's another one who could be on this list of who left too soon. To be quite honest,
yeah.
But the fallout to that, and you've gone, we've just sold Andy Cole to our direct rivals. Like, who on earth, Kevin, are you going to bring into a place? Cole. He comes out on the steps. He says, "Trust us, trust us." You get Les Ferdinand, and even though you know what Les Ferdinand's done for QPR, you see the price tag, you go, yeah, a bit of money. Still in your head, you're thinking, it's Andy Cole you've got to replace here. I mean, is Les really going to do
pressure.
that? First season, bang. Second season, bang. You go, yeah, okay. Yeah, that was not a bad decision, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
But the pressure on Ferdinand to wear that number 9 shirt, to replace Andy Cole, I'm sure he was well aware of the feeling surrounding that decision. That took broad shoulders.
It did, but at the end of the day, as well as Les did, Andy Cole was the one with the Premier League winners' medals at the end of
Very
it.
True. Very true.
But yeah, Les, that wasn't Les Ferdinand's fault. He came in, like you say, under massive pressure to perform, and perform he did. Yeah, Les, of course, he's up there with my favourite strikers. I've got loads. It's just, yeah, you're the main man, aren't you? When you're the striker, or at least you were. Now it's wingers, I suppose, isn't it? But
It changes,
Yeah,
doesn't it? It changes now
yeah.
every 5 or 6 years. But yeah, Les Ferdinand there, my second pick of the man who left too soon. I would love them to have ended his career on Tyneside as he said he would have liked as well. Who's your next pick then?
For my final pick, as I say, I really, really struggled. I'd mentioned obviously Les Ferdinand and Gary Speed. Other notable mentions: James Milner,
Ooh.
Kabay. I think if we're sat here in 3, 4, 5 years' time doing this, you could quite easily have Yankuba Minter. But again, it's too soon to tell. But I think that will come around and bite us on the behind. Um, I've gone Mikel Merino.
Hello. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Barely had a sniff under Rafa. Was brought in, but obviously the dynamic that he had with Shelvey, because on that first season back, we hadn't switched to the back five yet. It was a 4-2-3-1. Yeah, it didn't really have enough of a sniff under Rafa Benitez, and then just went as quick as he came, didn't he? And when he did play, showed glimpses of fantastic ability. Got a kind of late winner against Palace, didn't he?
With a header. It was a
Yeah,
storming header. I mean, that was the leap he got for that.
yeah,
I remember
really,
that.
really good. You could tell there was a real quality player in
Yeah.
there. But
I think
Rafa, that's
Arsenal have
what.
got an absolute bargain, to be quite honest. You know, I'm good for him that he's got injured in his first training session. Couldn't
Yeah,
really
that is
write
a
that, but
shame. But yeah, it was a matter of time. You could tell there was a real player in there. But this was the funny thing with Rafa as a manager. Um, Individual players, just like I said, we were discussing Wijnaldum earlier. Rafa dropped Wijnaldum quite often when he took over, and there's just little players. If he don't fancy you, that's it. You're done. Like like even like Tim Krull. Rafa's an odd one in
Ivan
that
Toney to a
respect.
degree, because
Yeah,
he claims he wasn't aware of Ivan Toney. Others claim he was very aware. You know, again, we don't know
yeah.
exactly.
I think he was aware. If you look, because he played in the Premier League for Newcastle, people forget that. Ivan Toney played in the Premier League for Newcastle United. Go back, watch Paul Dummett's equaliser in the 3-3 against Manchester United, who's the first player to celebrate with him. Number 36, I think it was, at that time, Ivan Toney.
Here's another one you could add to the list.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That there are so many. You could even say guys like Bellamy with the fallout under Souness. Bellamy, for whatever you think of him, was a magnificent player. Had a great partnership with Shearer up front. There were so many. That's why I struggled to narrow it down to. Even guys like Alan St Maximin, I would have loved to have seen him play for us in the Champions League. I would have absolutely loved it, but it wasn't to be. Woodgate is another one. Yeah,
I think
loads. But Mikel
with
Merino was the
Mourinho, Arsenal got such a player there. We saw him in the Euros. We saw how he's excelled when he went back to La Liga. And for an initial £27 million, I mean, it's his boyhood club. It's a club he supported as a kid. They've got Champions League football. They're going for the Premier League title. That's such a snip of a price for an upgrade. Like, that is going to make their midfield even better. I mean, him alongside Odegaard, like,
and
the,
Rice.
yeah, that's a daunting midfield trio there for any opposition. And I'm gutted that he's got injured, because it means we're probably not going to see him for the next couple of months, which is a real shame until that shoulder injury recovers. I mean, knowing our luck, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head when Newcastle face Arsenal, but you can guarantee he'll come back and end up scoring a winner.
Probably. Yeah, proper side I know Arsenal, although they are still missing a striker. But yeah, I think it's a great deal. And
2nd of November, that's when they play at
mm,
home.
okay. Hopefully he's not fully wound up by then. But yeah, I just think for a player we had and barely played, um, yeah, just to think he couldn't get ahead of Mo Diame and John Joe Shelvey, and now look where he is. It's a real opportunity missed.
Wasn't it a bit of a weird deal at Newcastle United? It was on loan, and then did he become permanent, but no one
Yeah,
quite knew? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So,
It was bizarre. I don't know the inner workings around it, but
so he joined from Dortmund on loan, and
yeah,
then there was an obligation to sign permanently based on the number of appearances.
it was like 6 million as well.
October was when it came into play, a 5-year deal. I'm not sure how much he signed for, but I don't think it was too much at all.
No,
Like you see, his only goal came over Crystal Palace, and he only provided 1 assist. So the numbers weren't there, but as much as you could see the raw ability and talent, you could also see that he was settling in, and I think he did find it difficult again. You got to think, what 2017 he would have been 21. So again, that's a big move. A big move for a young man to come to England and then come to Tyneside with everything that comes with being a Newcastle United player as well.
yeah,
It's a big responsibility. It's a big change to maybe playing at a club like Dortmund or a Sona where you played before, where you could probably walk down the street and be okay. Whereas here, people want autographs and photographs and what have you. He returns to Sociedad, reportedly 12 million. So I think Newcastle probably did make a profit on him. Not much of a profit, but did. And again, it was one of those. I remember when he did leave. I was good. I was good because you could
yeah.
just
I
see there
was
was a player
just a
there,
real opportunity missed.
but you could understand it because you could see. I think you could see, as I say, he was struggling to settle, and I don't think anyone again begrudged that move because I think had he stayed, I don't think he would have become the player he is now. I don't think he would have been as remembered fondly after one season as he is. I think he would have really, really struggled, and I think he probably would have been put in the bracket of maybe a CM Jejong, where so much ability, but it just didn't happen. I think moving back to Spain was the right move for him. Being there, 5, 6 years, and then got the big move back to the Premier League. So I think, from his point of view, and Newcastle's, to be fair, it was the right thing to do. And I'll be wishing him well, not on the 2nd of November, but
Yeah,
that
no,
aside,
I just think it was a real opportunity missed, and yeah, I was good to see him go because that is one proper footballer right there.
he doesn't score too many goals. 27 goals and 242 appearances for Real Sociedad. But it's the ground he covers, it's the passing. He's a really well-rounded midfielder. Got a good engine on him. Like you say, he's just going to complement Rice and Odegaard. It's just don't even want to mention them. It's a scary, scary midfield. So yeah, excellent pick. Like yourself, my third pick, I could have had a host of names, written down. But I've settled on a man you know quite well, actually. A man who was here for just a season. 30 appearances he made for Newcastle United. And it is Sebastian Bassong.
Ah, yeah.
I've gone for Bassong. Joined from Metz after a trial, 2008. And was player of the season 2008, 2009 as Newcastle United were relegated to the Championship. He moved to Spurs for just £8 million. Now, admittedly, I don't think his time at White Hart Lane went quite to plan. Only 71 appearances, I think, in about 4 or 5 years, and he ended up at Norwich. I don't think he reached his true potential, and maybe we saw the best of him and have a bit of a skewed view on him because he was that. Well, was he that good, or was just Newcastle United that bad and he was average and he stood out because the rest of the team were that rubbish? Or was he actually a really good defender? It's probably a bit of both. I don't know what you think, but I mean, I was impressed with him, but I do think it was probably because it was so bad how he was just clinging to any sort of light possible.
Yeah, it was very bad, very bad indeed. But yeah, it was one of the kind of small positives of an otherwise horrendous season. Yeah, he's great as Seb. Top guy actually. I wouldn't say he flopped at Spurs.
No, he didn't,
Um,
but I think they were probably expecting a little bit more from him.
in
I
terms of
don't think.
development and trajectory, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, he signed. He was there for through. Was he there for how many seasons? Let me just double check. Yeah, he was there for 3 seasons.
Played Champions League for them as well, didn't he?
but he only made 71 appearances in those 3 seasons. 28, 12, 5 in the Premier League. He was bought, I would suspect, with big things expected of him, and it didn't quite happen for him. Maybe flop is the wrong term of phrase, but I don't think he reached the heights that we all, as Newcastle United fans, thought he would do after seeing him. And obviously Spurs, after splashing £8 million on a young man who'd only had 1 season in the Premier League, it was £8 million is not a cheap price for
It wasn't. No,
that
that was
kind of
it. It
player.
was at the time. It was good fee. But what you're saying is, I suppose, a season in the Championship, playing alongside Colaccini and Stephen Taylor when fit. And
You've got
then
to think
coming
how
back.
good Colo became.
Yeah,
He struggled initially in the Premier League in his
he was
first season.
horrific.
Yeah, went down to the Championship. Obviously, probably the nature of playing against tougher strikers who maybe dig you in the ribs slightly more, harden them to the world of English football. Came back up and was really, really good. Okay, he was probably not the levels of some of the centre backs we've seen before and after him, but he's still up
If
there.
you remember the other week, that was my big unpopular
Yeah.
opinion, wasn't it? That I don't get misty-eyed about Colaccini whatsoever.
But I do think the Championship helped him, and you do wonder,
100%. Same with Enrique, same with Gutierrez.
if Bassong had stayed, got Newcastle back up to the Premier League, maybe stayed on for that first season in the Premier League and then moved on, would he have been a better player? I mean, it's all ifs and buts, but you do wonder, having just had 12 months in the Premier League at such a young age, maybe he jumped, and again, you can't begrudge him for that, but maybe he jumped a little bit too soon without just fully being accustomed to the way of the game.
Yeah. With speaking to Seb in the past as well, I know he loved it at Newcastle, and that he actually really liked working under Alan Shearer, and they had a really good working relationship. He said he was Shearer's kind of defender, which really helped him, and he did thrive under Shearer. And another unpopular opinion is I think Alan Shearer should have had another crack at management. I think he could have done all right. A lot better than your likes of his fellow pundits, let's say. But yeah, it was maybe a season in the Championship playing alongside Colaccini, coming back up, as you say, and then you had that team that finished 5th under Pardew. He could have been a part of that, yeah, and yeah, he would have been really good. But yeah, he's had a good career, and he's yeah, in motivational speaking now, he does a lot of stuff on Instagram and around, and he's been back at the club as well to do these talkings that I know. I don't think it was with you though, was it?
No, he was with Justin Lockwood, but I did bump
Yeah.
into him. Bassong, time of leaving, said, I have a lot of respect for Newcastle and supporters. Everyone knows that, but I want to play in the Premier League. I think I deserve to play in the Premier League. I would like to play in the Premier League with Newcastle, but for the moment, it's not possible. Honestly, I want to leave for my career, my future. I think if I was to play in the Championship, it would not be a step forward for my career, and that's why I want to leave. Which again raises questions that maybe did that 1 season of 30 appearances at Newcastle where he was one of the best on the pitch in a very poor situation, maybe go a little bit to his head, and he thought, okay, I'm destined for the big time. Obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You can't blame him for having those ambitions at all. But it's one of those where you do think, did you make the right decision?
Yeah. Fun fact that's I've just remembered from when I spoke to him first time around when I interviewed him. When he moved to Spurs and obviously relocated down to London, got his house and whatnot. Who lived on his street?
Les Ferdinand.
No.
Go on.
Mike Ashley.
There's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, he lived on my. I think he did for quite some time. Like, he may still do now. I'm not sure.
I tell you what, though,
But yeah,
if it was Sebastian Bassong in today's day and age, and Newcastle had signed him for £500,000 and sold him on for between £8 and £10 million, you'd be rubbing your hands at the good old PSR counts, wouldn't you?
not
There's
anymore
a
now.
nice little profit.
Not now. DeMarco's on the case for Leicester. that'll open a can of worms. So yeah, that's very good. I like that one. Have you any more honourable mentions? Because I'm just thinking of a few more. I've mentioned a couple. Steve Watson was another one for me.
Went to Everton, didn't he?
Yeah, I didn't think there was any. I think that was a Rude Hullet one, wasn't it?
I think there's a few honourable mentions. Rule
No, he went to
Fox.
Villa. He went to Villa before Everton, didn't he?
Did he? Rule Fox is one.
Yeah,
I
he's still
think
milling around the club now as well, isn't he? He was there
he
on
was there
Sunday.
against Spurs. He was there against Spurs. But I think obviously he left kind of because Ginolan Gillespie came in. But I mean, he was the first entertainer's winger, wasn't he? I mean, he was electric. But he left. You are right. Yeah, Watson did go to Villa. Rondon. Where'd you stand on Solomon Rondon?
I wish we'd have got him when West Brom got him.
All right, okay.
Because he was a player that was on my radar back in the day when he was at Malaga. And I knew of his quality then, and I could not believe West Brom had got him.
I loved him in that season he had on loan.
Yeah, he was great, but obviously, when he went to China and then came back to Everton, didn't he? He was naff. But yeah, that season he was. Teams tried to mark him out of the game. They would stick two men on him. I remember being Wolves away. They had two men on him, and he'd still be winning balls.
Was it against Everton? He had a really good game. Against Southampton, there was one that stood out as well. He was a beast.
Yeah.
Really good player. I mean, you could throw like Remy into the mix as well.
Aaron Hughes.
I mean, he was here for a long time, was Aaron Hughes. But again, it's one of those where you think, could you have stayed and finished your career here, maybe?
Well, he went and had a fantastic time at Fulham and places like that. I think he, I think he's a very underrated player. Very underrated player.
Habibai was another one. I was good when he left. I thought he was such a good fullback.
Matthew
Debussy, another one.
Wasn't a fan.
No.
To be honest, again, another unpopular opinion. I prefer Danny Simpson to Debussy.
That is an interesting opinion. I mean, I prefer Bai to both of them, to be honest. But yeah, I was good when Bai left because I thought he was he'd been linked to Newcastle for so many years, and they got him, and I was like, yes, because I thought he was so good. I think did he have one season here, and then they got relegated, and he went off to Villa, was it?
Went off to Villa, yeah, and he wasn't overly great for Villa.
I remember though a game against Manchester City, and he got sent off for what has to be one of the best challenges I've ever seen. Obviously, before the days of VAR to get it wrong, but it was a tremendous challenge against I don't know, maybe it was on Benjani or Abinio. I can't remember who exactly it was on. But they were racing through, and it was a beautiful sliding challenge, and the referee sent him off. That's the one of the memories I have of him. But yeah, big fan of Bai. Just trying to think who else. They were kind of the names I had written down.
Maybe next week we should do players that didn't leave quick enough. Because there's probably equally as many there. Solano first time round, yes, he came back obviously not long after, but remember Solano leaving gutting. Yeah, obviously when that Bobby team was dismantled a bit, the likes of Lauren Robert going, Bellamy as I mentioned.
David Santon.
I liked him. I really liked him. I thought he was a cracking little player. Yeah, I wasn't overly keen on letting him go. Ben Arthur, obviously, it had all gone really wrong, but then he kind of, went and picked himself up at Nice and went and got moved to PSG for a while, didn't he? Ginola. There are loads. It's a good one. We could have done a top 10 each and still had players left over. Yeah, Milner was, as I mentioned earlier, Milner was a big one for me because we never really saw. He never really had a chance under us, and I just don't know why.
We talk about the way Ferdinand was treated. I mean, Milner was treated
Oh,
horrendously.
terrible.
back and forth, loan deal on, loan deal off, cancel like it. And look at him, still playing for Brighton now. I mean, this might be an unpopular opinion, but when he left Liverpool, I would have been all over that. I think Newcastle United should have gone and got him. The experience in the team, he's an option, he's versatile. Yes, he's near the end of his career, but he can still play at the top level. I think you look at how good Brighton are doing. Yes, they're buying in all these exciting unknown youngsters. They've got a great manager, but the experience of the likes of Danny Welbeck, James Milner, they're major components to what will be a very good season and what has been a good few years for them. For me, I think Newcastle missed an absolute treat by not going after James Milner. I mean, we're getting off topic, but
where would he have played?
Right, but it's not necessarily he's coming in to be first team, is he? He's coming in to offer something off the bench. He's coming in to offer that leadership and that experience.
So on that basis, then, would you be looking at a couple of centre backs that are currently on a free for that same reason? You like to Hummels and Matip and players like that.
I've seen this suggested, but I mean, it's a pointless conversation because it's never going to happen. So
I would have bought in Hummels.
Yeah, I've seen a few people suggest that, but yeah, I do think, could Newcastle have gone after him once he left Liverpool? But anyway, ifs and buts. You enjoyed this episode, Sam?
Yes, very much so. As I say, there's lots we've left out there, and people will have their own list that could be completely different to players we've not even mentioned.
What a way to spend your birthday.
I know. Yeah, really good.
Well, thank you for sparing the time on what is a wonderful day for yourself. This actually will be going out over the weekend, so you'll be 5 or 6 days into what year are you now? 34, 35?
35 today.
There we go. Don't look a day over 21, Sam. Thank you very much for sparing the time, a few grey hairs there, on your birthday. And thank you to you guys watching and listening. You know what to do by now. Give us a rating and review on the podcast channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Get into the comments as well, as one gentleman did. And I just want to finish off on this lovely comment, Sam, that we got on the last episode. And it's from a guy called DJ Peter Robinson. Let's assume he's either called Daniel James Peter Robinson or he's a DJ. And he says, I listened to you guys on Spotify, but I wanted to hop on to the YouTube channel and say, great pod. Love this episode. So thank you for that lovely message.
Peter Robinson?
Peter Robinson.
For all your weddings, christenings, fun family events.
We don't know if the DJ is a DJ in terms of mixing tunes, but we'll give him the plug anyway. But yeah, because we know this is a little bit different to other Newcastle United content that we do on the channel and what other channels do. But we like to bring a little bit of light relief to the day-to-day support in Newcastle United, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, I do it on my other channel as well, but,
Yeah, well, this is the place to come. Where is your other channel, Sam? Go on.
On Newcastle Fans TV. We all know by now.
I'll give you a chance to plug it. Give you a chance.
It's really good. Go and have a look.
It is. It's excellent. It is excellent. Thanks again to Sam. Thanks to you guys for tuning in. And from us too, we will see you guys next week.